The Australian Open is a tournament that has always brought about some controversy or the other. Or right now, it's COVID, and with COVID, we have Djokovic.
Many people are saying he's being wrongly targeted. I think absolutely not.
There is nothing wrong with what the Australian government has done. You have rules in place which apply to everyone.
You know the rules. The rules are plain and simple. It's black and white.
But so what the Australian Open knows, because if Australia doesn't allow you inside the borders, where are you going to play the Australian Open, right?
Exactly.
Being the world number one tennis player does not trump being
A human being.
yes, exactly. You you could be world number 1, 0, -1. I don't care.
Should vaccination be mandatory? Should it not be mandatory? Players who want to get vaccinated or don't want to get vaccinated, should it be up to them?
Look, I don't want to call anyone arrogant for standing up for their own beliefs, right?
I'm throwing shade. Yes.
Hey guys, welcome back to All About Sports, the podcast, a podcast for the fans, by the fans. You guys are joined by a regular host. We have Mazhar.
Hey everyone.
We have Gui, Aniket.
What up? Malu just got spooked for a second.
And myself, Shubham. Today's topic is something that has obviously affected us for the last 2 years. It seems to be coming back. It seems to be closing down places. COVID. To start off with, we have a big tournament lined up. We have the Australian Open. And the Australian Open is a tournament that has always brought about some controversy or the other. Let it be the amount of heat that was there, and the players were really upset that there's so much heat. Otherwise, last year, 2 years back, when there were massive forest fires, which again led to difficult conditions for players to play. Or right now, it's COVID, and with COVID, we have Djokovic. Djokovic is in the headlines. He's been denied entry into Australia. His visa has been cancelled. His lawyers are fighting for it, and Djokovic has not taken any vaccination. So obviously there are some massive issues out there. And Djokovic, being world number one, probably gunning for title number 21, which will make him the men's player with the most Grand Slams. A lot of things on the line. So we'll bring Mazhar into this. Mazhar, what do you think about Djokovic's situation? Firstly, clarify Djokovic's situation for our viewers and listeners, and let us know your thoughts on it.
So, of course, it's not a secret that Djokovic was an anti-vaxxer. It's been true since the beginning. Now, what's crazy is recently he comes out and says that he has an exemption, a medical exemption from taking the vaccine. Now, someone of Djokovic's stature, it's not hard to find a medical exemption, right? Let's face the facts. Whether he actually has some case or doesn't, that's not the point, because there's a lot of controversy around that. Just the fact that he was so anti it in the beginning just throws shade and doubts on whether he legitimately has this medical exemption or has a medical reason for not being vaccinated. There was someone who said this line, and I read it somewhere, where they said he has medical issues to take the vaccine, but he's medically fit enough to win an Australian Open. That just think about that, right, for a moment, and reflect on that. The guy has 20 Grand Slams. He's the fittest of the fittest. There's no way that you can tell me that he has some grounds basis which he can't get vaccinated when this has been tried and tested on millions and millions of people across the globe, right? 3 of us sitting here are all double vaccinated. We're not even 1% of the athlete that Djokovic is. Oh, wait, sorry. We are all athletes. Boom. Well, I'm throwing shade. Yes, if for all of those who want to know why, just tune into our previous episode where we spoke about esports versus real sports. If you don't consider esports a sport, just gonna leave. And in Shubham's words, competitive activity. but yeah, coming back to the main point, the problem with Djokovic's case, and Sports Illustrated actually has covered everything. So all of those, we'll share that link in our description. So do check that out, because it gives you full context on what's going on, what's Djokovic's scenario, and so on and so forth. Many people are saying he's being wrongly targeted. I think absolutely not. At the end of the day, he's the biggest role model in one of the biggest individual sports in the world. He's the world number one, has been dominating tennis over the last 5-6 years. He's going around and he's got this aura about him, right? He's Serbia's representative. He represents Serbia as a country. Like, he is basically like Manny Pacquiao in the Philippines, or you can say Mo Salah in Egypt. That's what he stands for. It's become such a political agenda that the Serbian president is coming out in support of him, saying that he's been harassed and being mistreated by the Australian government. I think it was clear, and Rafa Nadal spoke about it, right? Nadal said, whether or not you want to get vaccinated, whether or not you believe in it, you know the rules. The rules are plain and simple, it's black and white. The rules say you have to be vaccinated to play in the tournament. He flies in. Firstly, I don't know how he flew in. There's a lot of question marks on that as well. Why did Australian border control not stop him? Now, the reason for that is also because he flew privately, apparently. So
No, so I guess I might be wrong, but I think what I've read is that he was given an exemption from the Australian Open. Like the organizers knew that he's not vaccinated, and that exemption was given. But to get into Australia, the government is so strict about their rules and regulations that you need to be double vaccinated to get into Australia. So that is the problem, because apparently, I think he got on the 16th of December, he got COVID, because of which I think his lawyers are fighting a case saying that because he had COVID, he did not take the vaccine, so his exemption applies, and the Australian Open knew about it. But so what the Australian Open knows, because if Australia doesn't allow you inside the borders, where are you going to play the Australian Open, right?
exactly.
So,
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely spot on, Shubham. The other tricky part is the Australian Open funds these players. So the Australian Open is the one Open that actually pays for their players' flights. So there's so much money involved, and the Australian Open doesn't want to lose the number one player, their current champion, literally the brand ambassador for the sport, the face of the sport. The Australian government has a strict rule. Why should we give anyone privileges? So what if you're Novak Djokovic? I'm sure even if it was Steve Smith or Aaron Finch or whoever, like they're Australian national heroes, Ian Thorpe for that matter, they'd all get picked on. The rules don't change when it comes to safety and health concerns. I read another interesting point that I want to just end on, and then of course bring you guys into whatever the further discussions. And I love this, what Sports Illustrated said was like 95% of the people that are part of are part of the events that for the Open are all vaccinated. 95% are all vaccinated. 93% of his staff apparently are vaccinated.
Djokovic's stuff.
Yes. And 100% of the fans who pay money to watch him are vaccinated. So don't you have a sense of responsibility to all of them? At least do it out of that, and so that's the thing. Like, I don't know, it's tough. I know Nick Kyrgios, who is not a fan of Djokovic, took up for him, saying at the end of the day, he is human. Yes, he is human. That's why he should get vaccinated, right? According to me personally, there's no way that there's this massive conspiracy where suddenly all the doctors in the world come together, right? And they're like, oh yeah, we're going to play this conspiracy and be like, no, you have to get vaccinated. It's obviously like, there's no way that that's true. There's a reason why they are telling us to get vaccinated. There's a reason why they feel it's safe to take the vaccine. There's no way they would roll out vaccines across the globe unless it was safe. So for me, I don't know, man. I just feel like, as a role model that he is, I know it's like, again, we keep putting sports people on these pedestals that we create when they don't necessarily want to be there. But the thing is, I guess, like, at the end of the day, you do have a responsibility to society, to the larger audience, because at the end of the day, you are getting paid because we like you or we watch you win. He can still win all these tournaments, but what tomorrow if no one gives a fuck, then what? He's not going to make that much money. So I think it all ties back to, again, money.
Azhar with a very passionate point of view. So I highly appreciate that. But Gui, what I want to know from you is, So see, Australian Open, it's a private tournament. They have their set of rules, and if they decide to exempt any athlete from from taking the vaccination, fair enough. They can decide the set of rules. But don't you think for Djokovic to fly into Australia and expect that the Australian government will alter their rules, where when the visa was issued, there was nothing given as confidence from the Australian government that, listen, dude, you're exempt. He got the visa, and then he knows the rules and regulations, and then after that his lawyers are fighting this case, and there's this big hue and cry about it. So don't you think it's a little arrogant from Djokovic's point of view?
It's I don't want to call anyone arrogant for standing up for their own beliefs, right? Yes, headstrong, very much. Having a very strong sense of individuality, yes, again for that. And kudos to him for saying, you know what, i don't I don't care much for bending to your will just because it means a shot at my 21st title. For just for a shot at legacy also, I will not, you know, uh, lose my principles, so to speak, which is commendable. But again, I know what I would have done in that situation. I would have gotten two shots and played that Grand Slam, just because, like, you're not uh, Benjamin Button, you're not aging in reverse, right? You have a shot at glory when there isn't really a clear favorite except for yourself, and you still don't. Now, I don't want to call anyone arrogant. That's like, I don't think that's justified to say that he's arrogant, because, you know, well, people who are coming to watch him, people who are working in his staff, you could do what you feel like. He's not asked anyone to not get vaccinated, right? You could make that argument. He's not shoving his principles down someone else's throat.
No, it
But
does seem like he is shoving down his principles down Australian government's throat, because why is lawyers fighting for him then? Just accept the fact that this is the rule of the country, rule of the
which
land.
is
Respect it.
which is where I have an issue there. That is the point where you have to back down, saying like, okay, our belief systems don't match. Screw you. I won't play in your country. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like say for example, I don't know the numbers. For example, if Australia's population is 10 crore and those 10 crore Australians have been vaccinated, and Australia still follows COVID protocols and COVID restrictions, you can't just let another person walk into your country with an
Absolutely
exemption, right?
not.
It's not
Like,
fair.
there is nothing wrong with what the Australian government has done. You have rules in place which apply to everyone. And more, okay, being the world number one tennis player does not trump being
A human being.
yes, exactly. You are a citizen of your country. Maybe your country allows you that bandwidth of not getting vaccinated. All right. But this is, you are playing the Australian Open in Australia, and now this is my territory, right? Like, you can't challenge that. You can't say that I should get to play here. But who are you to play here? You could be world number one, zero, minus one. I don't care, right? There is that you have to take mark a few boxes, which maybe, okay, you don't feel like you want to because that's your uh, belief system, so to speak. Fair enough. I think Djokovic should walk if that's how adamant he is. That's my take on it. Like, if you are so passionate about not getting vaccinated, okay, instead of asking for sympathy on, you know, through public statements saying the world is divided, society is divided. Well, yes, it has been, and it will continue to be so. You can't help it, right? But when you want a shot at your own creating your own legacy, then maybe sometimes you have to bend to the will of someone else. That's where, okay, some people will measure him as a you know, stronger individual for standing up for his own self. Fair enough. If you value that over your 21st title, it's okay. Like, it's perfectly fine. That's also your choice. Like, you can do it. Who's to stop you? And this is again, this is not a regulation sport, right? It's not a team sport where you are part of a team which is part of a league, which is again part of a larger country, like a countrywide organization. So I think here you could uh, how do I put it, you could hold on for your dear life to your choices much better than you could do it in a team sport like, say, basketball or football.
One thing I feel is how Mazhar mentioned that this situation is now becoming political with the Serbian government backing Djokovic. Well, I can understand from Serbian government point of view, they will back the number one star who really represents the country world over. But I also feel like this is very it's very stupid of the government to back him up, because then you're disrespecting another government. You can't disrespect another country's law, right? It's their rule. You either follow it or you don't follow it, and you fly back to your country. But anyway, since we have been talking about vaccination, so Mazhar, coming to you, what do you think? Like, should vaccination be mandatory? Should it not be mandatory? Players who want to get vaccinated or don't want to get vaccinated, should it be up to them? Like, for example, I remember in Liverpool also, Jurgen Klopp has been encouraging his players to get vaccinated now, but at the same time, they're respecting the fact if you don't want to get vaccinated, it is fine. So, what is your take on this whole vaccination thing? Like, should tournaments go ahead with players without having taken the vaccination?
I'm actually quite. I'm not sure where I stand with this, Shubham. Like personally, I feel like everyone should get vaccinated simply because there are repercussions on others potentially if you don't get vaccinated, right? Because if you contract the virus, you can spread it. And even though you may not feel those symptoms necessarily, someone else will. And I like that you brought up Klopp, because I was going to use another example, Joshua Kimmich. He's an anti-vaxxer. He got COVID. He really suffered after COVID. He's having some problems right now in terms of breathing and with his lungs, and not like small problems. He's having major issues in terms of his fitness. And now, had he probably been vaccinated, maybe those symptoms wouldn't have been so severe. So you have cases on both sides of the spectrum. So I think if vaccinations not guarantee, but like minimize the risk, then of course you should get vaccinated, and they're minimizing risks for the others as well. So at the end of the day, it should be encouraged. And I agree, if people don't want to take it, you can't force them, because if it's not a mandated sort of requirement, then everyone has their free will. But again, I think it ties back down to that. You have a sense of responsibility to others, right? Like now, for people who have to go to stadiums as well, you have to have your COVID pass, for example, in the UK. You can't just walk into a stadium without having that vaccination certificate or having done a test within the last 48 hours. So if fans have to do that and they're paying money, these guys are getting paid millions, right? So you can't take 2 shots. Rafa took 2 shots, had COVID. He's playing again. There are people on both sides of the spectrum, but I just feel like Kimmich's example is proof that if you take the vaccine, you're not hampering your career necessarily. But on the flip side, we've also seen in recent times a lot of cases of people suffering, like having incidents on the pitch where they're struggling to breathe. Or is that because of the vaccine as well? So it's both ways, right? Or was that because they had COVID and they rushed their recovery? Because it takes time, right? Long COVID is a thing. It's definitely a thing where you feel the impacts for way longer than even when you last tested positive. So I don't know where I stand. Personally, I think they should get vaccinated. But again, yeah, like Klopp said, I don't think you can enforce it on anyone.
So, Gui, coming to you, right now, what Mazhar said, I thought it was very interesting when he brought up the point that in the UK, when fans want to go and watch football, or I believe, I'm sure it must be with every sport, you need to have a vaccination certificate or a vaccination pass, or within the last 48 hours, you need to have an RT-PCR test done. So don't you feel if the fans have to do this, so perhaps that should also be applied to the staff and to the players, that maybe the players should also have a vaccination certificate, only then they can play, or something like that, to make it equal. Like if fans are going into the stadium to watch the game, they have to have the certificate. They are paying money. Why aren't the players also being forced? Not forced. Either you have the vaccination certificate or you don't play. What's your take on it?
So I'm going to apologize to everyone who's listening, especially the two of you all, because what I'm going to say is slightly long drawn, right? So now here's the thing. When you are a collective of 60,000 people who wants to watch football at a stadium, your bargaining power is very low, right? As an audience, you barely have any bargaining power. You're in fact paying money to be part of that, right? Players, on the other hand, they are the stars of the game, right? You are paying them money because they have the skill set to go and perform over there. They are the only ones. They are the 22 people who are deemed watch worthy. Like 60,000 people are coming there to watch you. So you have all the bargaining power. right? So the players could, maybe if you impose restrictions on them, maybe the players could grab the association by the throat, saying like, who, excuse me, you can't dictate this. I am the one who people are coming to watch. It's not, yeah. So that's where I believe the players have much more bargaining power than the fans,
But I'll tell you
right?
one thing,
So
Gui. Just on this point, I'll tell you one thing. The players might feel their bargaining power. Just okay. Let's create a scenario where the FA decides that either you have the vaccination certificate, then you can play, or you can't play. And players, like say even like 10 top players in the Premier League, if they go up to the FA and they tell them, "Listen, you can't do something like this. How can you force this upon us?" Blah blah blah. Initially, there might be a little bit of uproar in the media, but I promise you, after 2-3 match games, no one will give a shit about those players. They will still go out there to support the team. They'll still go out there to cheer for the team. Even if those players are not in the squad, they're not in the team, not in the training facility, nothing. So I think maybe for that brief moment, yeah, it will be an impact. But still, the money will be flowing in. The TV right deals will be done. The
and
sponsorships will be there.
the fans will do their bit. The fans will voice their opinion and they will support those who are pro their own stance. Okay, but now think about it. If you mandate the fans to do something and suppose they don't turn up, right? A very small section again. Now if 5% of the players aren't vaccinated, let's suppose that 5% of the fans are also not vaccinated and you're not allowed into the stadium. 5% of 60,000, very low number. All right, 5% of 22, it'll form a dent. All right, it really creates a dent in the number of players available, top players available. Now the issue will arise for those 5 out of 22. You are taking away their livelihood. You are basically saying you don't play. And then of course that I'm not saying their livelihood gets taken away just because they don't get to play. I know they have ironclad contracts, but eventually clubs will complain that I have 5 players sitting on the bench. It's going to become an anarchy, right? Like where players are revolting against the association, clubs get caught in the middle. And this is what is like a classic situation which you can't resolve. It's a conflict which you will not be able to resolve, which is why I think that the system is allowed to go on as is. Okay, 60,000, 5% of that 60,000 doesn't turn up. It doesn't count for much ticket sales, but 5% of your players don't play, right? And you're still having them on your rolls. The club is going to throw a fit. Clubs are going to lose their mind. So I think these scenarios have already been gamed. Someone has simulated a lot of these scenarios and then decided like you have to let it go on. You can't really uh, it's not I as much as I would want for it to happen, right? Like okay, maybe it helps a lot of people, and there are fair number of arguments against it also, right? Like a lot of players got COVID in the festive period, all doubly vaccinated. Now if someone wants to take the additional risk of carrying a larger impact on their own health, right, they'll say okay, I'm agreeable to carrying that risk. Maybe even if you make that argument that you could impact other people, okay, but other people are doubly vaccinated. Because this is an argument I've heard in real life, right? Some people don't wear the mask, saying okay, there are 11 people in the room, 10 are wearing a mask, why do I need to wear a mask? Like stupid arguments, right? Stupid arguments, but someone's going to make it. So which is why I think just to avoid the conflict and to reach at a conflict point where there is a standstill and you can't move ahead, you much rather just move ahead as is. That's
I
where
guess
I
Mazhar
think.
wanted to say something.
No, I think GUI, so we practically agree. It's just it's encouraged to get vaccinated, but then we can't even enforce it on anyone. So I think the crux of the matter is the same. But but yeah, GUI pretty much covered it with the second part where he said all those players were doubly vaccinated and they still contracted COVID. The only thing that I wanted to add to what GUI said was there's less chance of them contracting COVID if they are vaccinated, right? So we saw that in that winter break, matches were cancelled. Spurs, most of their players had COVID, so they couldn't play. That probably wouldn't, like, it would have been a less severe situation, I would believe, if there were some of those players who were vaccinated. But again, we don't know the numbers. They'll never disclose to us who is vaccinated, who isn't, but on their own. They leave that to the players to come out in the open and say if they are vaccinated or not. So I don't know. That's why I didn't want to bring that up too much. I think GUI summarized it perfectly.
Okay, so now that we've spoken about vaccination and should the players do it or not do it, whatever, the thing is, at least at this given point in time, it's spreading a lot. In Europe, it's spreading. I'm sure must be spreading the world over, in America, Australia, everywhere it's spreading. So at least last year, when COVID was spreading a lot, there was a total halt in all sort of sports. Or otherwise, when sports started again, it was without audiences, and there were a lot of rules in place. So, what do you guys think? Like, should the world again go back into those sports protocols where either sports completely stops for, I don't know, a few weeks or perhaps a month to break the chain? Otherwise, again, those restrictions are brought in place where fans are not allowed, or limited fans, 50% capacity, or whatever it is.
Shubham, you should go first on this one. I know you're. I think you need to go first on this one.
I would personally say, I personally feel we need to get the Indian government to sanction those rules, because all the states in India have decided 50% capacity for shadi, 20% capacity for if it's a small banquet hall, 50% capacity if it is a larger banquet hall, and if you fill their pockets up, then everyone can come and do whatever they want to do. I think we need Narendra Modi making these football rules and cricket rules. But on a serious note, I think maybe we should maybe there should be a little bit of pause in play. Anyways, like if you look at the Premier League, a lot of matches were postponed. Even I think for the FA Cup, some matches have been postponed. So if anyway it's happening, and a lot of teams, they have a lot of first team players who have COVID, and it's spreading. So might as well just take a break. I'll just talk from a football point of view. You guys can talk about basketball and other sports. I just think it would be a sensible thing to take a break. And anyway, it seems like during the winter months, it spreads a lot more. So perhaps take a month off, or take a few weeks off, ensure that at least all the team players, everyone in the squad doesn't have COVID, and then you all can start the games again. And perhaps this time when the games start, maybe we don't need 70,000 capacity or whatever the full capacity of the stadium is. Reduce the capacity, take those few restrictions, be a little bit more cautious, and then start playing again. At least that's what I think. Gui?
So here's the thing, right? Like even the UFC, which has been like a machine which just rolled on through COVID, right? They also held their fights in UAE. They had to make that exception. The NBA was in a bubble, but now here's the thing, right? With doing this, either you set it in such a way where these organizations can actually have this planned well ahead, which is not the case with COVID, right? An outbreak could just occur not just in winter months, in summer months, in any season, so to speak. But the logistical nightmare that it is, like to enforce a bio bubble, have how many teams Mazhar in the league? 16 and 16, 32?
30, 30.
30,
15 and
30,
15.
15 and 15, 30 teams. 30 teams, you move them into one state, like one living accommodation. You play every match, every game in the same stadium. It's I think it's genuinely a logistical nightmare, not just in terms of executing that operation, but in terms of shutting down the remaining. Like you'll have to shut down the other 29, or shut down in the sense, it's just the amount of disruption it causes is that's where the issue lies. It's not in enforcing certain new things. Okay, maybe you could use your past experience to enforce the bio bubble again, move the UFC to UAE for maybe 2 or 3 PPVs. Maybe even like for a cricket series, I think the number of players and your team strength is much smaller, so you could have that in cricket also. But there are some sports like football, there are too many players, too many teams, too many leagues, associations. Every country plays it. The Champions League is a nightmare in terms of
Travel.
managing. Yeah, so I don't think it's possible to do in all sports. And taking a break, yes, while it is advice, maybe it it will really help, but how often and how many times can you expect organizations and players to go through this? Like, yes, they make boatloads of money, right? They make boatloads of money while doing this. Does not mean they are warranted or they are required to adjust to certain playing patterns, so to speak, which are not even fixed. The Bundesliga, you're going to have a 1 month break in the winter, right? Now you're saying you could have a 1 month break 3 times in the season, and your seasons could basically restart without any off season. There's no off season, which happened right once already. And to keep players in that kind of limbo, I don't know what it could do to you mentally, because just with that much uncertainty, like, I understand that everyone in the world is living with a lot of uncertainty at this point. Like, at any point your job could be a work from home job, much more easy to adjust, right? And I'm not saying that businesses, shop owners, restaurants, hospitality sectors, which get severely affected, right? But if you can cut them some slack, you need to cut these players also some slack. That's what I think. Like, going on a 50% capacity and things like that, which could manage them, yes, but to change their schedule every year 2 times just because there's an outbreak. Okay, now that sounded very wrong. Just because there's an outbreak, is- I I I don't know if it's advisable in the spirit of keeping their mental health in check and the spirits up.
Shubham, you spoke about football, and I just wanted to highlight that as well. So the Premier League asked the clubs; they left it in the hands of the clubs, and the discussion was had, and the club said, "No, we don't want to stop." Of course, I'm assuming that they consulted the players, and the players probably didn't want that break. So, uh, I think that just speaks volumes, and at pretty much is exactly what Gui is saying as well. That break affects everyone. It's not only from a monetary standpoint; it's from all the other perspectives as well. Basketball, in fact, so many players are still not vaccinated, and it's shocking. It is absolutely shocking how many people are not vaccinated in basketball. So many of them go into COVID protocols and then come out. There's this constant shuffling going on. Of course, they are going from city to city, right? Traveling. It's such a rigorous schedule for them. They play 82 games in a season. They're playing 29 other teams. Literally, at one day they are going from the west coast to the east coast, and they could be flying back for their game. Literally the next day back home again. So in that rigorous schedule, the NBA did a phenomenal job in the bubble. We've spoken about that in the past. But the moment they moved back into their courts and the moment there was exposure of the fans, we saw cases going up. We saw players getting COVID. We saw players still being apprehensive on taking the vaccine. So many players, so many of the superstars have still not gotten vaccinated, apparently. Like, if you compare all the other businesses, apart from the sports industry, work from home, remote working, you can't do that in sports. unless you talk about esports, but 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 that's the thing, right? So, like, it's very difficult for these sports organizations to deal with this, especially for the sports regulatory bodies. How do they go about money? Yes, they've all taken hits, but they have bucket loads of it anyway. So at the end of the day, they'll recover somehow or the other. They'll just sign a bonanza deal in a new contract with some company who's willing to pay that money. So, like, tomorrow there's Coca-Cola. Okay, tomorrow then Coca-Cola's like, you know what, we made too many losses, forget about it. Someone else might come in, Pepsi might come in and be like, it's okay, we'll take that hit. At least we're getting that exposure from a long-term perspective. So that will keep coming in. So I don't think organizations should be so worried. It's more about players' mental health, like Gui said, according to me. It's tough in basketball. I think basketball should have gone on a break because they anyway have such a rigorous schedule. They shouldn't have stuck to the 82 games for sure, given COVID. Anyway, there were talks around them being too burdened with too many games. Maybe cutting that schedule down would have been a better option. Personally, I think that was the better approach because then they would have anyway had a longer off season. So I think that's a system that they anyway needed to change, especially now in COVID. They should have adapted that and changed that. But again, trying to make up for that money, right, with fans in the courts. So there was no way they were going to cut down from the 82 games. Man, Shubham, money.
In fact, having heard your thoughts now, I'm just reminded of what Sari said. I think recently he said something along the lines like, if COVID is such a big problem, then stop all footballing activities. And if it's not a problem, then compare it to the common cold and let life go on and let things be normal. So yeah, it's a very interesting thing about should players be vaccinated, should sports completely stop, or should life just carry on the way it is. Everyone listening to this podcast, please let us know in the comments below, what do you guys think? Should all sports take a break? Should there be more strict rules in place? Like, for example, in Djokovic's situation, what can we learn from it, or what are your thoughts about it? Please let us know in the comments below. Do like, share, subscribe, and let us know in the comments if you guys want us to talk about any specific sport or cover any specific topic. And we shall see you all again next week.
If you like this episode, make sure to leave a like and share it with anyone else who might be interested. You can also subscribe on any social media platform that you prefer, and all our links are in the bio. We also have a website with all our episodes as well as blogs and a whole lot of other sports content, so make sure to check that out as well.